Hi, this is Jill. I'm going to teach the seated poses. I put the seated poses right after the hand balancing poses in my sequence because I feel like the hand balancing poses are really energetic and they build strength and they get the heart rate up. But now we're going to come down to the floor where we can experience forward bends and maybe a little bit more releasing and surrendering. And this follows a whole series that I've already done, which built us up to get to this point. And if you're interested in it, you can find it in the link below. And if it's something you really like and resonate with, please subscribe and give a little thumbs up. It'll help me to continue to make these videos. And if you have a comment, please mention it and I would be happy to address it. So we're going to go ahead and start by coming onto where we left off, onto all fours, and then probably downward facing dog. So make your way over to all fours, and we'll come just like this to a tabletop, tuck the toes under, and take it back downward facing dog. And just notice where you are. I mean, hopefully you will have done some warm up to get here, probably at least the sun salutations, even if you just did sun salutation A. But ideally, you could have done A's, B's, standing postures, hand balances, and now you're here. And then from here, we're going to make our way up to the front. And you can do that a couple different ways. You could jump up, or you could lightly step up and then find a place where you cross the feet and start to come down. And maybe you make it down to seated from here. Or maybe you need to turn the hands to come down and sit. But once you're down to the floor, nice and easy, we'll come to Dandasana. Dandasana is translated as staff pose, but that just means it's nice and straight. We'll take a moment to connect to those bandhas that I talked about in the latest opening. So all that means is that you're engaged in pelvic floor, right? The belly draws back, and then a gentle drop of the chin just to hold everything in. It's to stabilize your inner body, all of the muscles on the inside. You can take your hands down to the side. Notice if your pelvis is tilting back. And if this is happening, your spine is in a posterior tilt, which means you're not right up with a straight spine. So it's going to put a lot of pressure on your back. You want to make sure you have that lifted. So not overarched, but just neutral. So if this is impossible, and sitting on the floor can be really hard if your hamstrings are tight, I would advise sitting up on something, a blanket, a bolster, even a block if that's all you have. So once you've established that, you'll know it because your hip bones are, these hip bones right here are right above your legs, right? So you're nice and straight. Once you've established that, see if you can really press through this big toe knuckle, which I call the big toe mound on the other side, and pull the baby toe side of the foot back. That will automatically engage you inwards. So once you find that, just sit up tall and breathe. You can take a few breaths here. And then we're going to start with a pulling exercise that I like to do. So I'm going to use an exercise band. It doesn't matter how thick it is. You don't have to use an exercise band if you don't have one. Just mimic the movement without any weight, right? So we're going to use that band to help us to sit up tall. Now, you may have noticed in sun salutations, down dogs, there's a lot of pushing. So we're going to take an opportunity here to experience some pulling. So we're going to let the shoulders come forward, kind of like we did in some of the arm balancing drills, and come to this protraction where the back is rounded. And then from there, we're going to sit up and with straight arms, try to retract the shoulders down and wide, right? And then we're going to get a pull in. So the shoulders will come a little bit closer together. You're not trying to squeeze them. You're just trying to they'll naturally draw together as you pull. But do lift the sternum and keep the belly in. Then we let it come forward and a gentle pull forward again. And then inhale here, start to rise up, start to pull back, exhale, nice pull, nice lift up. Most of my students love the way this feels because it can reverse some of that poor posture throughout the day. So let it pull you forward, and then retract with straight arms, and then a pull in and a lift up, lift that sternum, and then let it pull you forward. Now, if you don't have a strap, you could do this without anything. Just engage the body. So you let the body pull forward, you protract, and then you sit up with straight arms, start your retraction, right? The shoulders down and back, and just pull in. You can feel the energy in your back pulling. Use those muscles and sit up tall. And then slowly let it pull you forward again, and pause here. I'm going to do the classic Pilates roll back and roll up. This is great for stretching out the spine and also engaging the front body. So we're going to start again in Dandasana, sitting up. And don't worry, if you don't have a band, I'm going to teach you a variation as well. So sitting up tall to start, we're going to start to draw the belly back. You have to really pull the belly in. And by doing that, you're supporting your back and you're working really hard to articulate your back. Make sure there's no neck tension. The shoulders stay down, curling back. See if you can do it one vertebra at a time. So you get the behind the belly button part of your back down before you feel your shoulder blades hit the back. Then the head hit the mat. Then you come all the way down and then inhale here, exhale, start to come up. You curl the upper body up first, the tail is under, and you come all the way up. The spine is rounded, and then you sit up. We're going to do that again. Inhale, exhale, curl the belly back. I'm still pressing through those big toe mounds and knuckles and curling back. Pull the belly in. You allow the strap, the support to pull against. You can pull against it and get more length in your back. Inhale, exhale. It's like the strap is doing the work here. Curling and coming up and sitting up. Now I'm going to teach it without the strap. The strap was supportive. You can keep using the strap though, but if you don't have one, just curl back. Imagine you had one. And if you feel off balance at any time, you can touch the floor. You can use your legs as leverage to curl back and come all the way back. And then inhale here, exhale, let the head just float up, curl the spine. You could use your hands if you felt stuck at any time. Curling and coming all the way up. And now we're ready to get into some of the seated poses. So this strap might come in handy. You're welcome to use it. So we'll sit back up in Dandasana, adjust, make sure the hip bones are right on top of your femur. So you're sitting tall. And again, you could be on a blanket, right? If that's not happening for you. We're going to start with Paschimottanasana, which is simply translated as stretch of the west, the back of the body, right? So we're going to come into that forward bend. You can use the strap if your hamstrings are tight. You could just simply come from here and get a nice pull forward. And that might be your Paschimottanasana, trying to keep your back straight. If it was accessible, you could grab your toes. Big toe, you push that big toe mound or that knuckle forward and pull forward. There's another variation I like where you can push on that big toe knuckle and pull the baby toe side of the foot back. Make sure your legs are straight, whatever variation you choose. The final one, and probably the deepest one for some people, is to grab a wrist. Put it around your feet and just pull forward. Stay in this pose as long as feels good, right? Choose the one you like the best. Hold yourself there, but breathe. Inhale. Notice with every exhale, you surrender a little, right? You let go. Inhale and exhale. Inhale and just stay as long as you're feeling the stretch is really going deeper. And make sure the legs are straight again. And then inhale, lengthen, and then we'll come out of the pose. And then from here, we're going to stretch the hips a bit. So let's let the right leg come up and grab with your left hand the inside of the foot, with your right hand the outside of the foot. We're going to lift that knee up into the armpit and try to pull it back. And try to pull it back. It's a Kranadhanurasana. It's like a bow and arrow. It's like you're pulling that bow back, right? And you might feel this on the inside of the hip because there's the inside of the hip and the outside, right? We got to get all of it. And then let's bring the leg across now, just like this, just you're lifting up. And again, focus on that big toe knuckle, right? The big toe mound pushing forward, and same on the standing leg. And if you're not sitting up, again, you might need to be on a blanket, right? Especially for this next part. We're going to bring the bottom leg in and support this ankle. And again, find that big toe mound pressing. You can use your hands here, especially if you're starting to come back, because maybe your knee is up a little, maybe your hip's not quite open. So just work on really opening that knee and just use some energy. Open that knee. You might feel the outer hip here. It might be a big stretch for you. And if it's not, and this is all going well, I really want you to stay here if this is enough, but this might be accessible to some people where you come down this way, but you want to make sure your ankle is over your knee and this knee, right knee, is really above the left ankle. Some people it looks like this. That's okay. My body happens to do this pretty easily. But I was kind of born that way. And then if this happens, right, and you can get the knee down, it's okay to come forward. But again, let's just keep it where it's working for you. And now we'll go to the other side. So starting in Dandasana, let the left leg come up. Pull the knee to the armpit and really pull it back. You might feel some inner thigh. You might be feeling all kinds of things in your hip, but pull back. Just see how that feels, like that bow and arrow, right? And then we'll slowly start to bring it across and sit up and pull in. It's like a cradle, like a cradling baby, and pull it in. And then from there, we're gonna bend the right knee, cross the ankle over the knee, pressing through the big toe mounds again, and sit up, right? Make sure you're not back here. Really sit up, opening that knee. And this might be where you stay, but if this feels pretty easy for you, you can come into, some people call it double pigeon or Agni Stambhasana. I've heard it called fire log. So if this is accessible for you, great. You can come forward, maybe, or maybe you're here and you're just working this. This is great. And then do this as long as you need to, and then we'll come into Dandasana, staff pose. And from here, we're gonna go into Janu Sirsasana, which means head to knee pose, but it's really just bending this knee, opening it out to the side. So this will be the right side. We're always trying to do the right side first, and opening the knee out to the side. Again, pressing through this big toe mound. We're gonna take a little twist to the right. So you can take your left hand to the outside of the right knee, the right hand behind you, and just sit up for a moment. No, not a huge twist, it's just an awareness of a twist, a lifting up. Okay, and then gently come out. And now we're gonna align ourselves with this left leg. It's a little twist to the left, but not as much. For a moment, take your right hand on your right hip crease and just see if you can roll that inner thigh open as you start to come forward. And if everything's feeling really good, because we wanna really try and keep that right hip down. If everything's going really well now, you can take your left hand and then take your right hand and pull. If you don't quite get there, you could use your strap and pull. But if you do and it feels really good, maybe your left hand grabs your right wrist and you start to pull forward. And whatever phase you're in, just feel the lengthening and keep the right hip down. And then inhale, lengthen and rise up. And we'll go to the other side. So let the left leg come up, bending first and then opening out. Establish that big toe mound pushing forward on the right foot, and then a gentle twist to the left. It's gentle. The left hand behind, the right hand above your knee, and just lift up. Pull the belly in. Not forcing, just lifting. It's just a prep for the Janu Sirsasana. Now we're gonna come across the other way. And also it's a nice lengthening of that QL on the right side. Now we're gonna start to come forward, but first take your hand in your inner thigh and see if you can kind of roll that inner thigh out, like a nice rooting or grounding, and then start to come forward. And then if everything's going well, you can take both hands. You could be using your strap, Or you could grab your left wrist with your right hand and pull forward. And really try to feel that left side body stretching. In addition, you may just be feeling hamstrings on the right side. And stay as long as you need to. And then inhale, lengthen, and exhale, release. And we come back to Dandasana, sitting up tall. And now we're going to come into a twist pose called Marchasana C. So the right leg will bend. Establish an energy here from the right sitting bone to the right heel. They're kind of coming in towards each other, allowing you to lift up tall. And now we're going to start to come across. It's fine to just take the crook of your elbow and put it right on your knee. And then sit up. Keep trying to get that right butt down as you turn. It's okay here if you're feeling really good and your shoulders are okay with it to take your arm on the other side. But just make sure it doesn't pull you down. You want to stay really lifted with this pose as you turn the ribs. It's better to be here and lifted, right? If that was the case, if it was pulling you forward. So just know that. And then inhale, come back around and come back to Dandasana. And then the left side, bend the left knee. Establish that sitting bone to heel energy. They're coming towards each other, allowing you to lift up, right? And then you can take the crook of your elbow and just sit up. Allow the breath to bring you around. So inhale, it's a nice lifting. As you exhale, you feel the right ribs turn to the left. And then if it's accessible and it feels really good, you can take your arm this way, right? Only if it's accessible and helping you, not if you're rounding. And then come back to the center, and we come back to Dandasana. The next pose is Baddha Konasana, or bound angular pose. So we'll start by drawing the feet in, and then take a moment to notice what your spine is doing again. Lift up. If you need to, you can sit up on something. And then lift the butt up and scoot in a little bit closer. And then from here, we're going to try and open the feet. And you're going to notice, like a book, right? When you open the feet, you can feel the external rotation in the hips and maybe more inner thigh stretch. And now we're going to gently use the elbows to encourage the forward bend here. I have a little injury here. I used to be able to just go really flat down to the floor, but I'm respecting that. So just try to keep a long spine. I did it by kicking up into handstands too many times on one side, so don't do that. Now make sure the neck stays in alignment and just try to get a flat spine. So for me right now, I'm feeling a good stretch, but if you can, just continue to come forward. And then just hold as long as you're feeling the length and the inner thighs releasing a bit. You can encourage it with the elbows. And then inhale, rise up. And now we take the feet together, move the feet out. And we're going to take this into a rounded spine pose. So you're going to pull the belly way in, round back a little, and drop the head down. And just take it to where you can. Maybe your head can come all the way down, but then maybe not. And maybe you're feeling it in the outer hips. And then just take a few breaths here, really pulling the belly in. And then inhale, rise up. Good. And the next couple poses I want to encourage you to just have a little fun with. They're seated balance poses. So what do I mean by that? We're going to bend the knees and we're going to grab the big toes, curl the belly back a little so you have some support, and lift up and come into a back bend and really open everything up. And just have fun with it. If the knees are a little bent, you're a little shaky, it's okay. Laugh at yourself, but find that opening if you can. And then the next one, we're going to do the same thing, but we're going to take the legs together. So this might, if you're tight and you're here, that's okay. Just play around with it. See where you might go. Pressing through the big toe mounds and opening the chest. And then from here, there's one more if you want to try it. You can take your hands on the outsides of your feet and your thumb on your big toe mound. And this time, instead of back bending, we're going to forward bend. Of course, this one's the hardest one pulling in. Try to straighten your legs and see where you go. Just have fun with that. I'm going to end the seated poses here, but if you wanted a nice closing, what I would do is go ahead and turn around, come back into Dandasana, and we're just going to do a nice roll back. So inhale here, exhale, curling down. Remember that one vertebra at a time, right? Just really feeling that curl coming all the way down. And then you could just relax the body into Shavasana. In my next video, I'm going to be working on some back bends and closings.